Hello. Should probably clip this. Goddamn. Alright. The DOJ, the Department of Justice, the people who literally seek and serve justice in the United States of America, found that the Memphis Police Department conducts and patterns and behaviors that go against the Constitution and federal laws. That is so very awkward for anybody who lives in Memphis or America. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Welcome back to the Collective Consciousness Podcast. Yay! Okay. Yeah, I know it's been a minute. I told you that it would take some time. And yeah, it took some time. And I'm not excited about what I'm going to be talking about, but I'm excited to be talking about it because I feel like nobody else is really talking about it. Not at least in a podcast form. I'm sure everyone, is talking about it, but not. Anyways, let me stop rambling and let me get into it. I don't want to just read off of a script to you, but that might be what's gonna happen. I'll read this verbatim. The Department of Justice found the Memphis Police Department engages in a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the U.S. Constitution and federal law. Specifically, the Justice Department finds that MPD uses excessive force. MPD conducts unlawful stops, searches, and arrests. MPD unlawfully discriminates against black people when enforcing the law. And the city of Memphis and MPD unlawfully discriminate in their response to people with behavioral health disabilities. That was almost verbatim from the report. So I'm going to summarize the 70-page report, explaining what I think is most relevant so that you don't have to read through all of it. I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't read all of it. I read through it, I scanned it, and all that. Let's get into this report. I'm assuming the investigation started because Tyrese Nichols was brutally murdered on January 7, 2023, during a traffic stop. The DOJ report starts off with saying MPD basically relies on traffic stops to deter crime. They've arrested approximately 200,000 people for minor infractions from 2018 to 2023, which is like a 7-year span to be arresting basically all of Memphis, because I'm pretty sure our population is from 200,000 to 400,000.
Correction, there are about 600,000 people in the city of Memphis. MPD made 800,000 traffic stops between January 2018 and August 2023, and almost 300,000 of those people were arrested for minor infractions.
The report then goes on about how officers treat black people worse than white people who do the same exact crimes. MPD, while they respond to some behavioral health issues properly, there are many issues where there is clear abuse even among the crisis team that was created for behavioral health issues. The report then goes on into some background, which the main takeaways are that Memphis struggles with poverty and crime, which go hand in hand. The other big thing to mention is our police chief, Sirlene Davis, or CJ. The report doesn't really cover her, but I feel like to not talk about her would be a big loss of context. So, for starters, Chief Davis was a deputy chief in Atlanta. She was fired because of her involvement in a sex crime investigation. Around 2007, a police sergeant's husband pleaded guilty to 1 count of producing child pornography. But before that, CJ told officers not to investigate T.C. Crane, the guilty party in the situation. I feel like she was trying to protect her sergeant's husband, or maybe she thought, I don't know, I'm not her. But at the end of the day, she was negligent in an investigation. She told people not to investigate something that needed to be investigated, and that's why she was fired. But that's not even the gag. The gag is that in 2006 and 2007, for nearly 18 months, she oversaw a hyper-aggressive street crime unit named Red Dog that was ultimately disbanded following public backlash and a series of lawsuits, aka 3 officers fatally killed a 92-year-old woman. Yeah, they fatally shot and killed a 92-year-old woman. So, as I was editing this, I saw that 2 months before Katherine Johnson's death, there was a Frances Thompson who went through pretty much the same exact situation. She didn't end up dying, but it was pretty much the same situation, which is scary. Disbanded from backlash. You murdered someone, and yeah. But that's not why she was fired. I think this is very important because She came back and made a
Scorpion unit.
Memphis when she was rehired as chief here, and she oversaw that unit. I don't know how deep her hand was in it, but it's like you knew from 2007 and 2006 that these same tactics ultimately killed a 92-year-old woman, and still you allowed those same tactics to run loose and rampant in Memphis. And then ultimately Tyrese Nichols was killed by those same, I'm not gonna say tactics, but a similar unit. Yeah, but apparently in the courts or in whatever, they think this would be like defamation to tie her to this because it happened so long ago. But if I committed a crime in 2007, it would follow me in my jobs and in court. So I really think that this should follow her because there's no reason we should be losing people to this. But anyways, Memphis has a pattern of hiring people who have already done corrupt shit, who then bring that corrupt shit here and do it here. Good examples are Meta employees spending company money leisurely and Elon Musk's shady supercomputer. I'm not going to get into the details in this podcast because this podcast is not about that.
But if you want to, I did a podcast with the Blue Collective and MLK 50 where we talked about it, and I'll put that link in the bio if you want to get into that. The Meta shit is beyond me and out of my jurisdiction.
So let me reel it in. All right, now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the report. Before I start, I'm going to say trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. When I was reading this stuff, my stomach literally felt like it was on a washing machine. Still, like even now, reading this, it's hard. I know that's selfish inherently because I haven't gone through these things. So I do think that it's very important to share these stories and share things that you just keep sharing these things, keep talking about them, keep trying to make change for them, keep trying to have actions instead of us just sitting here feeling sorry for ourselves. It's time for us to ultimately be the ones who protect Memphis. That's supposed to be in my conclusion, but anyways. So I'm going to summarize each point that the Department of Justice they mentioned. The first one being MPD uses excessive force. MPD conducts unlawful stop, searches, and arrests. A woman got stopped speeding after she parked and was on her porch at a relative's. Officers demanded she give them her ID. She didn't produce it, so the officers told her she was going to jail. She told the officers, "You're not welcome on my property," in response. They grabbed her arm, handcuffed her, shoved her against the wall, threatened to pepper spray her, and slam her on the ground. After this, they locked her in a police car. One officer asked, "So what did she do?" Well, quoted, "What did we see her do?" One of the officers said, "She had tinted windows." Another officer was like, "All this for tinted windows?" And then the officer shook his head and gestured with his hands, "She talked too much." She talked too much, so let's fucking throw her. I'm sorry. She talked too much, so let's throw her around. There is a thing called freedom of speech, and most of the times these people don't even I don't even think these police officers are. I'm gonna stick to the script. Another incident where officers responded to a 911 call for domestic assault. They arrested the man. He was calm, but he didn't want to get into the police car. The arresting officer became enraged, grabbed him by the shirt, bashed him against the frame of the car, and hit him twice with a baton. After the officer shoved him inside the vehicle, the man began to kick the door of the squad car. The officer screamed, "Kick my motherfucking door again." The man kicked the door again, and the officer decided to climb into the back seat and pepper spray him. In the face. He pepper sprayed him in the face. The officer then dragged him out of the car, held him in a chokehold for 20 seconds, while the man's family stood screaming at the officer to stop. The officer forced the man back into the car and closed the windows. When the man said he couldn't breathe, the officer who sprayed him responded, "I don't give a fuck." I was gonna go on a whole spiel, but honestly, let's just let that marinate. For 20 seconds, exactly, Another man told the DOJ after experiencing a cavity search, he now spends most of his time in the house. He stated, "Can't eat," and he even gets jumpy when he sees police cars. Another woman told them that their family experiences meant she would only call the Memphis Police Department in a life-threatening situation. She stated, "They are not the first resort, and they are not the last resort." Sorry about the dogs. Like, this is the vibe, but damn. Yeah. That's crazy. That the people who are supposed to protect and serve, in our minds, we don't want to call them because we're afraid. I'll say certain people are afraid. I know not everyone feels that way about the police officers, because not everybody has to feel that way about police officers. Dude. Anyways. MPD officers have fired at moving cars in broad daylight. In one shooting, an officer fired at a car at least 8 times at a fast food drive-thru in the middle of the day, jeopardizing other officers and bystanders. Stated verbatim in the report, Memphis police officers regularly violate the rights of the people they are sworn to serve. Our investigation found that officers use force to punish and retaliate against people who do not immediately do as they say. Officers have unlawfully fired at moving cars and accidentally pepper sprayed and fired tasers at each other. Cool child. Cool child. That really is some buffoonery. To accidentally pepper spray and tase your employee, like your coworkers. And I really understand that being a police officer is a hard, complicated job. I'm not trying to in any way, I'm trying to keep this neutral, right? I'm not trying to uplift them. I'm not trying to bring them down. I'm just stating facts here. Some things are my opinion. Some things are my opinion, clearly. But, I mean, it's like, of course, I don't have, it's not probably going to pass in court. But, if we were a jury, and we spoke to how we felt, in some way that would be fact. But I know that a lot of times in court, they don't like to believe what is said. They like hard evidence. I'm the type of person that if you tell me a story and I can see the emotion, I feel the emotion, I believe you. I'm getting off point. On to the second point. MPD unlawfully discriminates against black people when enforcing the law. So I'm going to say their names instead of summarizing this part of the report. I feel like I don't have to explain why I decided to do that. Yeah, so Tyrese Nichols, Jalen Walker, Andrew Brown Jr., Breonna Taylor, Keyshawn Thomas, George Floyd, Dante Wright, Patrick Warren Sr., Elton Hayes, Fred Hampton, Kayla Moore, Tamar Rice, and many more. I hope I said his name right. Let's continue to say their names and remember their stories and share them as well. There were so many names on that list and so many stories. Please take the time out of your day to at least every now and then, maybe once a month, to look up one of those person's names. It's literally just look up, say their names, and there's a whole website dedicated to all of those names, and then copy one of their names, put it in the search engine on Google or Safari, whatever search engine you use, and read the first 1 or 2 articles. It takes 5 minutes out of your day. And yeah, let's continue to share their stories, remember their names, and say their names. On to the last point, the last and final point. MPD discriminates in their response to people with behavioral health disabilities. Grab your tissues because this one is so fucked up. Basically, MPD uses stereotypes and they treat people very harshly even when they know they have behavioral health problems. Here is an example. This was on page 48 and 51. I know I probably should have gave you all the pages. I didn't. I'm not really sorry. I want to be goated. Maybe I'll throw them in. So, basically, a mother called 911 saying her son, who had multiple behavioral health diagnoses, locked her family and herself out of their home. That's a reasonable reason to call the police and think that you're going to get help. But what she got was not help. Instead, the CIT officer, the program that responds to incidents involving in behavioral health issues, walked into the home, found an 8-year-old boy. He had his hand on his hip and he was sticking his tongue out like this. Well, I don't know if that was exactly how it was, but yeah. As any sassy kid is going to do. The officer then proceeded to respond in a very combative way. To an 8-year-old, mind you, he stated, "You this close to me taking my belt off." He eventually grabbed the child by the arm, handcuffed him to take him to the hospital. The boy asked, "Can I put on my shoes?" softly. But instead of saying, "Yeah, of course you can put on your shoes," before we walk out into the street, the CIT officer screamed in his face, bent his arm and said, "Bro, do you see this power? This hurt? Don't it? Don't it? I can break your arm with the snap of my wrist." Saying, "Do you feel the power?" to an 8-year-old is so insane. They can feel a gust of wind as power. 3 months later, the same child was visited by another CIT officer. The mother informed them that he had about 4 different behavioral health diagnoses and was taking a new medication at the time. The child was calm when the officer arrived, but for some reason, the officer lifted him into the air, threw him on the couch, and yelled in the boy's face, "You're 2 seconds away from meeting the real motherfucking," insert officer's name here, because they didn't say the officer's name in the report. "All right, you don't want me to turn up on your little ass." No, sir, I don't want you to turn up on me. What? Like, what? It's confusing because it feels like these police officers are talking to children as if they were adults. But then again, you're not even talking to me like I'm an adult. You're talking to me like I'm not a human. There's not even a real example of what these police officers or CIT officers are talking to these children and these people like. Another example, CTI officer was telling someone with a behavioral health issue to have a lobotomy after pepper spraying them and ensuring that the pepper spray would not lose effect. Mind y'all, I was summarizing. I was literally summarizing. A lot of that stuff I took out, and I just tried to talk about something instead of trying to talk about everything, because talking about everything, I can't do that. I'm just one guy. I'm just one person. I'm literally just one person. I couldn't. But anyways, in conclusion, we need God. Hoopla shabala. Nah, but for real, if we got body cams and an actual data site that kept tabs on these incidents free for the public to see, quarterly trainings, evaluations, and therapy sessions for these officers, I really think we would see a lot of change. But again, I'm just one person. So spread the word, go to the community events, stay tapped in with the news. We hold the power as Memphians. We are the ones who protect Memphis. Because at this point, we must be honest, the people in power are doing little to help. We've seen gradual change, but that isn't enough when it comes to our livelihoods and our lives. Thank you for listening to this. That was not fun. That's what that felt like. I hope that ate.